Hey everybody. So I'm super excited today to get into a little bit of a discussion on how you get organized using different tools, especially the Rocketbook. So I didn't have a Rocketbook. We bought some for our kids. They do online school, and this was a really easy way for them to be able to upload their work, especially in math, to their teachers. So their handwritten work and be able to share that digitally. And the Rocketbook, if you're not familiar, is basically kind of like a whiteboard in a notebook. A little bit different consistency on the pages. We'll talk through more of that as we go. But it's really neat because what you do is you write things down with this specialized, almost dry erase marker or pen. It's called a friction pen. And then it dries faster than a normal dry erase board would. And then you can take that and you can digitize it so you can send it to anything you want, whether it's an email, Dropbox, Google, the cloud, OneDrive, whatever it is, and you can then manipulate that. So as we go through this today, hopefully you get excited a little bit. For those of you who may be thinking about, how can I keep better track of my notes? How can I keep better track of the information that I have? But I'm not really sure that I want to go the iPad route where it feels like writing on a glass surface. I'm not sure I want to go e-ink, which can be kind of expensive. The Rocketbooks are fairly inexpensive in the long run, and they're reusable. So let's get into this, and hopefully we can have a good discussion. As always, feel free to like and support the channel. Just click like below, click subscribe. That would really help me out a lot. And I look forward to talking to you. All right, so let's start by looking at what comes in the package. So I didn't keep the actual packaging for these because it was just an envelope. So basically, kind of a foil envelope. But it comes in, it's pretty slick. You just rip it up and you've got the things. So what you get is you get a friction pin. So this is the friction pin, which is what makes the whole thing work. So you pull this off and you can see it's a pretty fine, almost like a pen, a regular writing pen, ink pen, but it's more of a dry erase type ink in there. So what I did, they were just running a special that was 40% off. So I basically got both of these for about the price of one of them. And I'll put some links in the description below so you all can see kind of what there is. So you get the pens, then you get this little, and there's actually two of these, but I'm only showing one for now. But kind of a quick setup guide that shows you some of the things you can do, what the pen is, what the basic pages are, and then how you can reuse it. You get two, and I actually have both of those here. You get two of the kind of microfiber cloths to be able to clean the entire surface with. And then here are the two different books I got. So both of these are the Fusion line. So the Fusion kind of combines the best of a planner with some note taking and some grids so you can do some drawings and different things like that. This is the Executive, which quite frankly is a little smaller than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be an A5 version, kind of like what my Supernote is, kind of that composition size, but it's actually more of an A6. So it would be really useful, really good for someone on the go. And it does have all of those different components we kind of just talked about. And we'll look at a little bit more of that in depth when we go through the larger notebook. So the other notebook, and this is the other one I got, and you can pick your colors. This one is like the size of a regular notebook. So the size of a notebook you would have for school. Again, it's the Fusion, so it has the different components. It has the monthly calendar, weekly calendar, daily calendar, and then some notes pages and some different things again to write on. So as we go through this, you'll be able to see, what some of these functions are. I'll also show you kind of the after product. So after you do your scan, what are you expecting to see? And we will go from there. So here's a sample of the task page in the Rocketbook. So it's pretty intuitive. You just fill it in like you would any other normal tasks. So you fill in what the main grouping it's for, what the task is, the date you need to accomplish that by, and you can put in here the estimated time you think it'll take. Of course, these are just placeholders, and then over here on this right side, you can check it off once it's done. Now, one thing that's kind of cool are the smart tags. So smart tags, if you look right here at the top, are the ones that are bracketed between these hashtags. So it requires a double hashtag on both sides. But if you do, it will automatically create a title when this is scanned into the system. And it'll create that automatically for you, name the file, and put it into your Google Drive, OneDrive, wherever you select to have that done. Down here, you've got a nice little notes section. One thing to be careful of or to think about is that although we are going to talk, this does do character recognition, it does not capture notes within tasks. At least if it does, I haven't been able to figure out how to do that yet. But it also does something. Once you scan it through, it'll recognize what they call a smart list, which is either tasks or something in the calendar, anything that's dated. And it'll say, okay, is this a task list? Is this a smart list? And if you say yes, it'll automatically create that list for you in Rocketbook. So it won't do it in Google, it won't do it in Outlook or anything like that. But what it will do is give you that right in your Rocketbook. So if you're writing out a quick shopping list or some other kind of very quick task list, you could do that and then immediately scan it, recognize it, and add it to your phone. And then these are check offable. So you can hit it right there. And now it says that that task is done. Another cool feature is your daily tasks, or not daily tasks, but kind of your daily calendar. And so you can see here, we do the same thing at the top with the smart tag so that way we know this is our sample calendar. Should have put daily in there, but you can still see it. And then I can do kind of the high level, hey, I've got an 8 a.m. vendor meeting. I've got a call at 3:30 on Wednesday, and then I've got a staff meeting on Friday. And then there's another really cool feature, which is the monthly view. Now, for those of you who use planners a lot, this is going to look really familiar. So I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but it's important to know that you can do all of these things and you still have them in written form here. But what you have as well is that when you do scan these in, you've got that digital input and you can access them from anywhere. If you walk out without your notebook, if you have some kind of an accident, if the notebook gets torn up, you still have a record of the things that you have coming up. So here you can see those 3 meetings from the weekly are here. We've got our smart tag here at the top. And then here at the later on, after, if you look at our detailed task list, after we're all done with that stuff by the 20th, then you've got vacation the week after that. Things I've done. So this is the kind of the sample planning. So you've got your objectives here. You've got selecting a technology vendor, streamlining operations, increasing efficiency. You know, some key results, things that we look at: positive impact on morale, customer satisfaction, savings. Got kind of an action plan. You know, how do we get to those things? How do we make those things happen? And then some reflections. You know, thinking about change is hard, recognizing multiple perspectives and soliciting ideas. All of that's very important. And again, this is a way to get your thoughts down on kind of quasi paper, but then also to be able to allow room for that to be able to be changed later. And here we go with what it says, the quote ideas stage. So again, these are bigger concepts, and depending on your own workflow and how you think through the large ideation type things, this is going to be an important page for you. It may be. So, you know, when we're thinking about some of these things you've seen on the other slides, you know, again, we've got that title, but we also have, you know, kind of a move to the cloud. What is that at a large scale? What are the things that you need to think about to make that happen? So, you know, and one possible starting point is to contact vendors and start to see what are the options that are available. And then you can rate those. Is it really important? So I put on a 5 and say it was a 5-point scale. Another thing is organizing information. You know, that may seem like a very small level task, but it's really not, especially if you're dealing with a large organization. And again, start to create a cognitive or a mind map to think through how that might look. And here we go with one of my favorite things. So I love mind mapping. Some people call it cognitive mapping, but it's really the same thing. So the idea is to think through what you want to do at a large scale and then start drawing it out. Figure out what are the steps involved, what are kind of the large picture ideas, and how does that look on the paper. Now, I've always done that on paper until I started working with eNotes and other tools like that. Now, give that a small caveat, depending on what I'm doing, and we'll talk about this maybe in another video. I do sometimes start in Microsoft Word and use their Smart Art and just play around with different configurations to see if I can come up with something that looks right to me. The creative like I've told you before, some of the process of being creative is messy, and when you don't draw well like me, it can be even messier. But this gives you a nice way, again, to think through those problems. You can always start with that tag here at the top. And one thing you can do that I didn't mention already is that if you wanted to do this hashtag with a title, you could make the title the same on every page for a specific project, and then it would group them for you. So that's another way to think about it. But so for here, this is how we're thinking about, a cloud system. So thinking about what we might do in the cloud versus a traditional server base. So you can see what are some different types of ways to do this. You have OneDrive and Google Drive. You have Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, Outlook, and Gmail, Google Voice versus Teams versus a more traditional system like Mitel. And then you have things like SharePoint and Google Sites to help you create that intranet. So this is just a way to kind of brainstorm, get the ideas down on paper, and show it visually what you might have in your head, what you're thinking about. This last page that we're actually going to look at in the Rocketbook is a real quick kind of if we had a meeting on this today about the concept or what we're thinking about. What are some of the questions we might ask? What are some of the bullet points that we might write down during that meeting? Again, this isn't like multiple pages, but they allow you that expansion in here to be able to do this and have multiple pages. So, what are we talking about? What are the current things that we need to think about in order to migrate to the cloud? We need to analyze, what's our current server footprint? How much data are we talking about? Understand vendor pricing. Is it charged by a specific rate, a flat rate? How many full-time employee equivalencies? What is that metric? And then what are the storage needs overall? Some of those hidden needs, maybe things that were originally on a local machine that we might want to back up now in the cloud to make that transition easier and make it more accessible offsite. Now, what does this look like when we actually get it into practice? So you scan this in and it automatically goes to Google. So when you go into your Google Drive, you will be able to see everything has come right in. And it comes in as a Word doc, which makes it really, kind of multi-platform friendly, for lack of a better word. So there's a lot of cross-platform functionality here. The idea of being able to send this to OneDrive or send this to Google Drive, and it's in the same file format, which Google can easily manipulate and turn either into a Google Doc or be edited natively in Word as you go through this. So, for example, when you come into that task list, here it is. Now, it comes in as a smaller image, so I usually blow it out and extend it to make it take up the whole page. It's just a little easier for me to see that way, but it's a very quick drop and drag. So whenever you click on that image, you can just pull that down or pull it up as needed. You'll notice, as I said in the earlier video or in the earlier part of the video, that it does not transcribe these notes. Now, maybe there's a way around that because it looks like there's a backing on them that's also on the mind map type sheets. But as of yet, I haven't been able to figure out how to make that OCR work. So if anyone does know, please put it in the comments so that we can all learn from that. When you talk about the monthly calendar, so again, here is the monthly calendar, comes right in. Now, it did try to treat this as a list at one point because of some of the information on here. it didn't do a very good job, so I didn't create that smart list. But this part comes right in. Now, again, it doesn't transcribe anything here. I didn't try to put in notes, but I was pretty sure it would do the same thing it did on the previous one. For the ideation, same thing. No transcription, but again, now you have all of this in one place. So you can see that this is, moved to the cloud, how it's rated, and what the concept map is. Now, on these last two, and this is where I kind of want to talk a little bit through how well this can work in the digital space. So you can see the mind map came in. It's clear. It's very legible, is at least as legible as my handwriting gets. And then what I did here was I created this table. So it's a little bit of a cheat as far as this isn't exactly what it looks like when it comes to you. However, what does happen is this image comes, it's left justified. It's a little bit smaller than it is here on the screen. And then I put so you could see how this could be easily transitioned into a more workable format. On the left side is your raw OCR. So it brought it in, hashtags and all, and it just brought in all of the things out of the bubbles. And if you'll notice, it did group them. The only one that's out of place is cloud systems, which is really the central idea. So that's okay. So then on the right hand side, which took me maybe a minute, minute and a half to do at most, I just went through and I cleaned it up. So I made the title into a title. I put each of the larger bulleted areas or the larger cloud areas, and then I put their sub bullets. So again, I don't have user storage, video conferencing, intranet, email, and phone listed in the actual map. Probably should have, but a lot of times my mind just thinks that, and some of that's assumed. But I know if I'm going to present this to someone else, I need to break it out so that they really understand where I'm going with it. And I can always go back later and revise the mind map and change that. And the last one to look at, again, is this concept meeting. And again, this is just a very generalized, what would you be thinking about if you were thinking about these things? This kind of shows you, again, here's what the actual placeholder was and what the raw transcription was or the raw recognition. And you'll see that I kind of left some spacing between information here and it did that to me. It made information. So again, on this right hand side, I cleaned it all up and I put in these larger bullets and what are the things we need to think about and tried to make sure that it was as clear as possible. And you can see here that I even reordered some things to make sure that it made more sense. So what are storage needs? You can see that this is actually supposed to include these two bullets. So I pulled that up and I did that on the back end after I was going through and transcribing these notes. But what I didn't have to do was go through and type it all out again, like you have to do with all those notebooks. Okay, so what are some final thoughts on this? So, quite frankly, would I buy this? Well, I did. So, it is something that I think can be very useful. Now, the reason I bought it, and this may be something for another time as well, is because I believe in redundancy. So, I love my Supernote. I've used it now for 2.5 years. It works very well. I have not picked up a pad of paper other than the occasional post-it, and I keep one little memo book in my briefcase just in case I should find myself in a position where the Supernote quits working. But now I thought, well, is there another way to do this so that I can have something that still could be digital, but that I could also then use uh, if the Supernote was to have a major malfunction. And we bought these, like I mentioned earlier, and of course, this is the executive series. But we bought these for our kids, and they use them for school. And I thought, man, that's kind of a cool concept. That could be really useful for me as a professional to have just in case something were to happen. Plus, it allows me to keep a record of all of the things I need to do. Now, that doesn't mean I don't use my phone. It doesn't mean I don't rely on my Google Calendar and my task list and all of those other things that we need to help keep us organized. But what it does is give me a way to kind of tune out the computer for a little bit or tune out my phone for a little bit and just write or just jot something down or remove the barrier between me and another human being as we're having a conversation. Now, that being said, and one other thing I want to plug really quick, and again, Rocketbooks aren't for everybody. The writing experience and feel is not the same as paper. I don't want you to think it is. It's not like a whiteboard either, but it's kind of glossy and it's a little different. So some people aren't going to be able to get over that hurdle. But if you do want to think about having these things available, and especially something that you can have as both digital and in your hand to refer to and flip through. Now, remember, this is set up for kind of a monthly, bi-weekly, daily driver type instance. They do have a bunch of different products, but you do want to make sure that you buy the one that's right for you if you're going to go this route. But you also, for that month or that quarter or whatever you buy, have something that you can open up in tactile or and flip through and actually see and feel just like you would a traditional planner. Now, at the end of that month or with that time period, you're going to erase it. You're going to wash it off and you're going to start all over. But while you're in that moment, you've got that same exact experience from looking something up the way you traditionally did. So I did mention I would plug one last little product of theirs, just because we use it at work, and I think it's kind of an interesting idea. They have what are called beacons. So you can use things like Microsoft Lens, Google Lens. You can take pictures of the whiteboard, pull out the glare, all of those things, and you get those photos. And some of it'll do some OCR. But the unique thing about what they call the Rocketbook beacons, I'll put the link down in the description below. One of the things the beacons do is they come in a carrying case, they're washable, and you just put them on the corners of a whiteboard and it turns that surface into a digital surface. Once you do that, then you treat it exactly like you would one of these pages and you send it to the cloud. It does the same process. It recognizes the text, it recognizes the smart tags, it adds in the image. It's a really good way to capture a discussion. And then, yes, you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to clean it up later. You're going to have to do some formatting changes, but it's instantly shareable. And you can do that with very little with no technology. It's what I call low tech, high tech. You can carry these with you and turn any whiteboard surface into a digital surface. You can even screencast it. It's not real time, but it's pretty close, and you can set it up on a 5% refresh rate. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. We're going to do more of these types of things, I promised, and I will talk about the Supernode here soon with some of the updates that are coming out with that. It's very exciting. It's one of my favorite devices, and hopefully we'll get to review some other devices here soon. So thank you and have a good day.